Left is Jessica Vitale, a voting member.
Good evening.
Next to Jessica is Ed McGargy, a voting member. My immediate left, Bill, our solicitor. My right, Bill Rhodes, voting member. Next to Bill is Jesse Poynton, voting member.
Good evening.
Kelly Kirk, director.
Zoning officer.
Oh, no, director of zoning.
Managing director.
Yeah, DCED or. And Margie Buchanan, the utility person extraordinaire. We have one continued case, 3 new cases listed tonight. The continued case is D21-21, Haverford Township Free Library Association. We're going to move that back in the order for now. But before we begin, Bill Rhodes, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Please rise and repeat after me. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so first, administratively, case Z21-26, Kelly Music for Life, Inc., owners of 4-6 East Eagle Road, DC folio number 2203-00842000, who seek variances from the following provisions for the installation of a 2-paneled LED message board marquee sign, 10.6 square feet per side, to project 2.46 feet over the front entry door, Section 182-701E1B2, for a projecting sign to exceed 40% of signable area, Section 182-701B7, for a non-permitted animated sign, and Section 182-701E3, for the sign to be illuminated by multicolored LED lights where direct or indirect light is permitted. Property is zone C3, located in the 3rd ward. So we received a letter from, hold on. We have that letter here. Cal, do you have a copy of that letterhead? Or Bill, do you?
Sure, no, we received a letter from George Lavin, attorney for Kelly Music for Life, requesting a continuance to October 21, 2021. Subsequent email also waived the time constraints contained in the MPC regarding the commencement of the first hearing. I would recommend approval of the continuance.
Unless there's an objection from any of the board, that case will continue to our October 21st hearing. All that reading, get to a continuance. Warmed up. Yeah. Warm up. Words up. Our first new case tonight is Z21-23, or second new case. Jared Rayner and Kimberly McKay, owners of 317 Buck Lane, Haverford, PA, DC folio number 2205-0011600. Can't do this. Who seek a variance from the provisions of section 182-711B1 to place a 10-foot by 12-foot shed 14 feet forward of the front wall of the house, where accessory structures are required to be at least 10 foot further back from the rearmost portion of the building. Property is zoned R1 and located in the 5th ward. So we have Jared and Kimberly here. Please come forward. No packet on this. How are you?
Good, how are you?
All right. Jared, I presume.
Yes, sir.
So, do we have pre-marked exhibits on this case? Do you have exhibits, Bill?
Not pre-marked.
Did you write a packet on this?
This came for the August 5th. Use that.
Oh, thanks, Bill. Okay, I'm going to swear you in, Jared. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Jared Michael Rayner, 317 Buck Lane, Haverford, Pennsylvania, 19041.
Okay. So, Jared, do you have exhibits that you want the board to consider as we hear your case tonight, or the things that you're going to refer to? Pictures, drawings, diagrams?
Yes, so there are a series of pictures, and there is also some letters from neighbors that came in late, and my apologies to the board for the lateness of getting those in.
Now, did you submit them to the township, or do you have copies that you can hand up? So let me just describe to you how this works, right? Anything that you want us to refer to during your hearing needs to be marked as an exhibit, identified for the record, and then shared with the board. So right now, we have what you submitted to the township with your application. None of that is technically part of the record until you request that it be marked as an exhibit.
Okay,
Then we identify it, and then that's what we call it throughout your hearing. So
Okay.
typically, the numbering scheme is A for applicant, that's you, 1, A2, A3, and so on. So do you have copies of what you want to refer to during the hearing with you?
I do. Give me just one moment.
And we could,
One's for you, one's for you.
we'll split this.
So A1 will be the site plan, or how do you want me to do it?
I'll help you through it, Jared. So do you have a pile of things that you want to refer to?
Yes.
Okay. So how about if you just give Arlene the pile, and we'll ask Arlene to mark them for you. And I realize we're off the record, Arlene. After Arlene marks them, you'll say A1 is, and then just briefly, very briefly describe it, and then hand them to us so that everyone can follow along with your presentation. So if you have a second set, you might want to mark them consistent with the way that these will be marked, so you can refer to them more easily, but that's up to you.
309.
You need because first. Thinking out loud. It was you and my brother. So yours
Fine, yep.
also be marked. Outstanding is good. Without Kimberly,
On
you're-
both.
Okay. Now, just, if you could just identify the exhibit, so A1 is, and
You want me to do that in advance, or do you want me to do that as I go through my presentation?
we should do that.
Okay,
So
so
A1,
Exhibit A1 is the site plan.
okay,
Exhibit A2 is the drawing of the proposed location.
okay,
Exhibit A3, 2 photographs of the proposed site. Exhibit A4, a third photo,
And what is the photo?
also of the proposed site from the street. Exhibit A5, letter from Mr. and Mrs. Gershon Buxbaum of 309 Buck Lane. Exhibit A6, letter from Ms. Deborah Morley and Ms. Gina Sessing of 320 Buck Lane. Exhibit A7, letter from Mr. John Farrar and Ms. Shelley Kessler of 313 Buck Lane.
Okay. And the numbering scheme on your street is 4, a gap of 4 between houses. So the adjoining properties, so these letters are from the adjoining properties?
It's an unusual site, and so 2 of the properties are adjoining. The third property is from across the street. And so the layout, those are all the ones that have direct relationship to the site.
And are they all in favor of your application?
They are all in favor of the application.
Okay. Now that we've gotten the formalities out of the way, please tell us a little bit about what you would like to do and why.
Yeah. If I could just make remarks that I've written down in preparation for the board. As mentioned, my name is Jared Rayner, and I am here tonight with my wife, Kimberly McKay, who's in the back here. We are the owners of the property at 317 Buck Lane in Haverford, which we have occupied since 2016. I do want to start by offering a few thanks. I want to thank you all for being here, but I also want to thank Ms. Kelly Kirk and Ms. Margie Buchanan. As you can tell, this is the first time I'm doing this, and I know that I have caused more delays, and they have been incredibly responsive and professional, and I want to thank you for that. I know it's your job, but the way that you've done it is much appreciated.
Well, thank you, Jared, because it's really very nice to hear some compliment. People tend just to complain. And we know of them already. We think they're superstars. I keep promoting Kelly from the podium. One of these days it's going to stick.
I also feel a need to thank the late Commissioner Andy Lewis. When I got the initial notice of the denial, I got really frustrated in trying to negotiate the code and figure out what was an anomaly of a property. And I called up Andy, and Andy was he was individually attentive and took the time not just to refer me to the code or refer me to an online resource, but he actually got on the phone with me and Ms. Kirk and helped us explore viable options. I know he was similarly attentive to all his constituents who reached out for help, and he remains an example of what constituent-oriented public service looks and feels like, and I felt compelled to share that for the record tonight. That brings me to our requested variance, which is before the board tonight. We are proposing to put in a modest prefabricated gray wooden shed of the size of 10 foot by 12 foot and approximately 9.5 feet high at the end of our driveway near the garage. Per the letter dated November 6, 2020 from Ms. Kirk, our application for a building permit was refused on the grounds that no accessory structure may be erected or placed within a front yard pursuant to Haverford Township General Code Section 182-711, subsection B1. I am appearing before the board tonight seeking a variance on this provision. As I understand it, Section 182-1004 of the code lays out 5 criteria for the board to consider in granting a variance. I believe we clearly meet all 5. The first and second standards pertain to unique physical circumstances or conditions of the property, and that the resulting implication of those circumstances or conditions eliminates the possibility for strict conformity for zoning provisions. I'll treat these 2 together. There are 4 unique physical circumstances related to the property that we believe qualify it for a variance. First of all, in Exhibit A1, you can see that the property is bounded on two sides by parts of Cobb's Creek. One of those parts of the creek runs between the street and the structures on the property, including the proposed shed. You must cross a bridge to get onto the part of the property where structures exist, including the proposed shed. Apart from the physical characteristic and location of the creek are limitations related to the creek and the accompanying designated floodplain. Further, the nature of the creek means that aspects of the property retain water, making them unsuitable for development. Second, at the rear boundary is undeveloped buffer space for the Norristown high-speed line. Since moving in, we have maintained aspects of that buffer space, including removing trash, destroying lanternfly egg sacs, and light pruning to enable the trees to thrive. There are no occupants in that space. Third, as you can see on the plot plan, again, Exhibit A1, there is a sewer main that transects the middle of the property, which, like the creek, limits our ability to develop aspects of the property. Fourth, the orientation of the house on the plot makes the front yard, quote, ambiguous. The front door faces the bridge and the shared driveway, which is the entry to the property, and the proposed shed sits behind the house and to the side, not to the front. That you can see that on Exhibit A2. The third standard that the hardship is that the hardship was not created by Kimberly and myself. We bought the house in October of 2016. All of these elements were in place when we purchased the home. The current layout of all physical structures, including the house and driveway, are pre-existing conditions to us as appellants. The fourth standard is that the proposed variance will not alter the essential characteristic of the neighborhood. I would point the board to the two specific pieces of evidence that indicate this small shed will not alter the essential characteristics of the neighborhood. Exhibits A3 and A4, which show pictures of the plot, clearly show that from the road, the structure is nearly invisible. Exhibit A4 is a different view from down the street, which also shows that from a different vantage point, covering all vantage points, the structure is nearly invisible from the street. Second, exhibits A5, 6, and 7 are the aforementioned signed letters from our Buck Lane neighbors, including the two with whom we share a driveway and one that is directly across the street from the proposed location. I'd like to publicly thank them for all of their support throughout this process. Finally, the fifth standard is that if authorized, this will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief. This is a small accessory structure to the side of the house in keeping with the spirit of the Haverford Township zoning code. We are not asking for the structure to be in the space that is on the other side of the driveway, closer to Buck Lane, but rather as far away while retaining reasonable use. Given the unusual orientation of the house and the property in relation to the road, the layout of the overall property, the support from neighbors, and a minimal requested variance, we believe that our petition clearly meets the standards of a variance from this board. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. So I have but one question. One of the reasons for the separation requirement is safety, so that firefighters can have access to all the entire perimeter of your home. Would the shed interfere with their ability to attack a fire on your property at all?
In no way would it affect.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Jesse?
Yes, thank you very much for your thorough presentation. Very well done. Thank you for that. It makes our job easier. You said that it's a prefabricated shed 10 by 12. Do you know what the height would be?
As I mentioned, it is approximately 9.5 feet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss that? Okay, 9.5 feet. Thank you. And what's the shape of the roof?
It's an A-frame.
Okay. And the 9.5 is to the peak?
Correct.
Okay. And the materials of the shed?
It's a treated wood.
That siding, treated wood siding?
I think so.
Is it will it be painted?
It will be painted.
Okay. Will it match the characteristics of the house?
It will be a light gray. It will match the house and blend into the environment.
And the shingles on the roof?
Also light gray. And I can't remember the make of the shingles offhand.
And are there any planned utilities for the shed?
No, sir.
No lights on the outside?
No, sir.
No electric?
Correct.
No plumbing? I don't have any other questions.
Jessica,
You mentioned that you have a garage. I was just wondering what your need for the shed is and what you'll be storing in it.
Thank you for that question. So it's partly to free my garage of my children's bicycles so that they can have easy access to them and their sporting equipment, so that we can, when it snows, we can put the cars in the garage.
Okay, thank you. And then the rear of your property in the pictures that you submitted, it looks like pretty soon after your driveway, it's all bamboo and wooded, and that continues all the way back into the buffer. Is that the case?
That's correct.
Okay. And was there any consideration given to putting the shed to the left of the driveway opposite the house?
The left of the drive. So that's what I mentioned. So there is a space there that is open. That would be closer to Buck Lane. And so we did give that consideration, but in accordance with the minimal variance, we moved it as far away from
okay.
Buck Lane as possible to meet the spirit of the code.
And the shed will be 8 feet from your rear property line still,
Correct.
but behind it is all overgrown
It's
as
correct.
it currently
Yes.
exists. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ed,
The area that you just referred to as a buffer between you and the SEPTA, is that owned by SEPTA, or who owns that property?
I believe that it's owned by SEPTA. Yes, sir.
The issue of the shed at the end of your driveway, how far is it from the edge of your garage? I think there's a number there, but I cannot see it.
Yeah, so my apologies, because I think that got washed out. It's 10 feet.
So it's 10 feet from your structure
Correct.
to the edge of the shed. And how far would you estimate that your shed sets back from the end of your driveway?
It's the same as the house, so it's 10 foot. The driveway goes right to the edge of the.
No, I meant from where your driveway intersects with, I can't figure this out either. You don't have a driveway that connects to Buck Lane, or is it two driveways?
That's correct. So the driveway it's a shared driveway with the extended lane, and it connects with Buck Lane. If you look at Exhibit A4, yeah, so in Exhibit A1, you can see that the driveway where the bridge is comes out and enters Buck Lane. There's actually yard before you get to the creek.
Right, so it's a substantial distance from either the shared driveway or from Buck Lane.
Yes, sir.
And you are not located, the shed is not located in the floodplain, correct?
That is correct.
No other question.
Bill?
Hi. So, how do you plan to have the shed secured to the ground?
Yes, per code requirements.
Okay. And how would that be?
So I talked with the manufacturer and with Ms. Kirk about this, and the plans are to do ties to anchor it into the ground.
Okay. And then in the picture that I think is A4, it appears that there was a clearing in what looks like bamboo and maybe some railroad ties or some boards put down on the ground. Is that to help us
That was to help you
visualize?
visualize where it would be, yes, sir.
So the distance from that, and that is probably the farthest extent of your existing driveway?
That's
We're seeing-
correct.
Okay.
Yes,
And
sir.
So just generally, is that like 6 feet in or 8 feet or what? I don't know.
From the driveway,
Yeah.
it's 8 feet.
Okay. And then in, the site plan, which is A1, okay, is a little easier to read, but I want to talk about A2 just for a second, because I think it's easier for me to identify a spot. So on A2, where the word existing is, do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, with an arrow pointing to your house, right?
Correct.
So in that little location there, which if you go back to Exhibit A1, is within your building envelope. I realize it's not adjacent to the driveway. But it's further from Buck. And so did you consider putting it there? And if so, why did you choose, or why would you prefer not to put it there?
Yeah, so that's a very, very reasonable and appropriate question. So there were 2 reasons, we did consider it. There were 2 reasons why we chose not to. Number 1 is that area, as I mentioned, gets flooding because of it's not in the floodplain, but it retains water to an extent that makes it a little bit harder to use. The second reason is for accessibility, and again, going back to the reasonable use, which with the hope, as Ms. Vitale was asking, for the children's bicycles and so forth, makes it less appealing and effective in that location.
Okay, and I'm fairly familiar with this, but I think for the record, your property generally slopes from Buck towards the SEPTA lines and towards Cobb Creek on a downhill basis. Is that right? You slopes downward from Buck Lane?
It does slope downward from Buck Lane, yes, which
Okay.
is the direction of Cobb's Creek Flow,
And-
correct?
When you're standing on your driveway,
Uh-huh.
approximately how high above, or at what level is Buck Lane? Is it at eye level? Is it at head level? How far down have you come from Buck Lane?
So when you look at Buck Lane here,
On
the
A2, or on
A1,
A1?
this is A1. The bridge that crosses over the tracks there goes up steeply right at that point. So at the point of the driveway, which is right here, that's level, right?
Yeah,
And then as you come down Buck Lane, it goes up quite steeply at that point. So it depends on at what point along that trajectory you're asking. When I'm standing at my garage looking out, I'm looking like at the bottom, like I'm eye level with Buck Lane.
okay. So it's about eye level. And that's what I was expecting. And the reason I was asking the question was trying to determine from Buck Lane, from the streetscape, how visible is this shed going to even be, right? And let's presume for a minute that all of the foliage and the planting that creates a buffer to Buck Lane, right, is gone. Someone else, not you, but someone else cuts it down. And what we're looking at, even though your house is oriented towards the back of your property, and I understand that, that from the street, it may still look like it's your front yard and there's a shed sitting there, right? So generally a 9.5-foot shed, maybe there's only someone would essentially see the roof line of that building. Is that from Buck?
That's correct. So you can, when I look on Google Maps, there is a picture that is taken in the late winter that shows that it was without any foliage. And even there that you have all the trees, but you look in and you're looking at the roof line of the house as you're standing on Buck Lane.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else, Jessica?
No.
Ed?
No other questions.
Jesse?
No questions.
And neither do I.
I'm sorry, really quick before we close the record here, I did just want to clarify that the shed on the site plan on A2 is shown as 14 feet from the front, the frontmost portion of the house, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe we said 10 earlier. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
Jared, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing else, thank you.
Okay.
Jared, can I just ask you a question? In the photos on A3, the lower photo with the red circle depicting on where your shed will be, you can see through the woods your car. Is there something that's there that has to be removed to put your shed in? It looks like there's a circular,
It's a movable compost bin,
oh, okay.
yeah,
I thought it was still.
And so if it's,
maybe better.
is that going to stay there, or will you be able to relocate that?
We can easily relocate it. If you ask my wife, we're still trying to get good at composting, and we're very bad at it. So we're taking any advice about where to put it for optimal use.
What's your address, Bill?
I don't have any advice on it. I was
put
just
that
wondering if it was
your house.
literally where you're going to put the shed and you're
No, it is
planning to
not. The
move it.
shed is actually behind where that structure is.
You should put it in a sunny spot and turn it often.
Okay. So is there anything else you'd like to add, Jared, before I ask for public input?
No, sir.
Okay. With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify in this case. Anyone present that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? Seeing no show of hands, we will close the record on this case, and a decision will either be rendered later this evening, or if we're unable to render a decision this evening, one would be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on October 21st. I do expect that we'll be able to do it tonight, though. And thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Very
much.
organized, well presented.
Yes.
All right. So next, we're going to do Michael, Lisa, Nidra. Where's Michael and Lisa? Okay. So before we even begin, I know we're off. You heard how we went through the marking? Well, we're going to take a couple minute break real quick.
Okay.
So to the extent you have any exhibits,
No, I have nothing more than what I submitted.
they're already submitted, so they still need to be marked. So
Okay.
Thank you.
off the record. The Clemenza chop. We'll resume the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board. Our next case is case Z21-27, Michael and Lisa Niedrower, owners of 2429 Belmont Avenue, Ardmore, PA, DC folio number 2206-0026000, who seek a variance from the provisions of section 182-205C5A to encroach into the required 30-foot front yard setback by 8 feet, and from section 182-205C4 to further exceed the existing 31.36% building coverage to 34.56%, where the maximum allowable is 30%. Property is zoned R4 and located in the 6th Ward. Michael, I presume. Please come forward. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. So,
Michael, off the record, we identified certain exhibits. Exhibit A1 is your plot plan, is that correct?
Yes.
Exhibit A2 is a sheet showing the surface calculations for the property, correct?
Yes.
A3 is a drawing of the front of your house with the proposed new porch
Yes.
cover, correct?
Yes.
A4 is a side view of the same, correct?
Yes.
A5 is a series of 2 pictures with your existing awning, is that correct?
Yes.
A6 is another photo of the same, correct?
Yes.
And A7 is a proposal from your contractor, Mr. Cushing, who I believe is here in
He's
the
not.
audience, concerning the removal of the metal porch roof with construction of a new porch of the same size and location. The difference would be that there would be an A-frame gable, as well as asphalt shingles to match the main roof. There'd be white siding, and this was made of wood as opposed to metal, correct?
Correct. Except that Mr. Cushing is not here.
Oh, okay. I didn't know who that was. So, if you could take these, they're the exhibits in case they're referred to during the hearing.
Now that we have the formalities out of the way for you, please tell us a little bit about what you would like to do and why.
Right, so we have a porch in front of our house. It's 175 square feet. It's a concrete slab that is currently covered by an awning with some cast iron railing and posts supporting it. And the roof itself is corroding. The cast iron is corroding. It has been since we moved in 6 years ago. And we wanted to replace it with something that's more durable. And that's what is in Mr. Cushing's proposal, to replace the cast iron railing and posts with like vinyl deck railing, posts with rafters to support the roof, shingles and some siding. And I guess there's two issues with the code. One is that there's the encroachment to the front of the property line because it would be 8 feet in front of a 30-foot.
Michael, are you going to further encroach, or is it basically the same size?
It's the same. It's not a further encroachment. It's already, because the porch is already there, but I guess the awning was exempt from being considered a structure because it's an awning and not a roof with shingles and rafters.
It's permanently affixed to your house, is it?
It
Isn't
certainly is.
Isn't the roof a permanent roof? It's not like a temporary awning?
No, it's permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's welded to the cast. It's not going anywhere.
So essentially, you're putting the same thing that exists now. So where does the additional encroachment? So in the advertisement that I just read, it says further exceed the existing 31.36 building coverage to 34.56. Where's the increase?
Mr. Kane, if I could, it's contained in our code that an awning is exempt. The proposal for replacement of that is not exempt, which then changes the building coverage issues.
So with I suppose we could look at what the definition of an awning is in the code. It's a hard structure permanently affixed to the house, supported by metal, wrought iron posts. So
Right.
I don't know how our code technically defines.
This would be different than an awning, and thus requires under 712 of the code, the applicant to come before the board. Let me ask you this, is there any intent to enclose that porch?
No,
Any intent to put any utilities other than electric
no,
on the porch?
nope,
Any intent to further extend into the front yard setback?
no.
Has there been any thought given to a metal awning as opposed to this structure?
There has,
And why is that not, in your mind, viable at this point?
the proposed structure would last longer, need to be replaced, less
Is it-
maintenance.
Is it needed for protection of that porch and the front of the house from water?
It would improve that as well, over the awning.
Mentioned 2 times. Actually says an awning.
Right, that's what my comment was directed to. Okay. Questions? Jessica?
Hi. The floor of your deck, is it going to remain concrete or are you adding another layer?
We have no plans to add.
Is your deck currently set further back or in line from neighboring houses that may or may not have porches?
Right, so on the south side, it will be in line with the porch of that property. And then the next door neighbor has a porch that's further back, but the one after that has more than a porch that comes out even further than where our porch already is.
And are those adjacent porches enclosed with roofs?
One is partially enclosed.
Okay. And I noticed on your application that you're going to be using vinyl siding on the gable of the roof. Was any thought given to using stucco to match your house?
No.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Bill?
So I just wanted to make sure that I understood the siding is only in the, is it the pediment? Is that the gable end? Right, above your roof line or above the ceiling line to your roof line. And that there's no other siding enclosure anywhere else?
That's correct.
It's just that
Just
triangular
right there.
piece? So notwithstanding the explanation that this might be treated differently by the code, I still don't understand why there's more, the surface calculation has gone up if we aren't changing the footprint.
The permeability calculation doesn't go up, but the portion of the property covered by a structure does. I guess the original porch doesn't count as a structure because it was
Oh,
an
I
awning.
see. So that the old ceiling roof was being disregarded for that, but now it would be. Okay. And the square footage is not changing, though, of the space itself.
Correct.
Are you looking to, do you have electricity under that now?
We did, but no. We have a light on the wall, but no.
Oh, a wall sconce or whatever,
Yeah.
outdoor sconce. Are you planning to put any other utilities in here? Are you putting ceiling lights, ceiling fans, any of those items that
We don't have
could-
plans for that, no. No.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Ed?
The issue of the aluminum porch roof was probably something that was done at the time when the structure was built. Do you have any estimation on how long it's been there?
I don't, but I know that the railing is not the original because I can see the rusted remains of the original or a previous railing in the concrete. But I don't know about the roof itself, if they only had to replace the railing or also the
Is there any other houses on the street that have this type of aluminum roof?
There are not,
So this porch roof would be more consistent with the neighborhood,
absolutely,
and it would be more aesthetically pleasing in your estimation?
yes.
I have no other questions.
Jesse?
Yes. It appears that the current gutter is along the entire front of the house. And it appears that there's a downspout on only one side, or is it on both sides?
It's on one side,
And so the new roof will require a gutter on two ends, right?
yes.
And so how will you deal with the side that does not currently have a downspout?
There are downspouts that go to the driveway currently, like further back, because that driveway runs all the way back along the side of the house.
Oh, okay, I see.
So it'll just join,
So you-
it'll
so the-
drain out the driveway.
Okay, so the plan is to connect the side of the porch, you're going to connect into an existing downspout that serves the house itself.
There might be two downspouts, but it would drain onto the driveway like the existing two downspouts already do.
Okay, so you're not going to connect to the downspout, you're going to drain onto the driveway.
I believe so. We didn't actually specifically discuss that with the contractor, but
Okay. The current proposal does not show that you're enclosing it other than just a railing? Is that correct?
we're not going to enclose it.
So you have no plans to enclose, and would you accept a condition that you would not enclose it in the future?
Yes.
I have no other questions.
Okay, neither do I. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's fine. My neighbor's here to throw in his 2 cents, but that's
Okay.
all
When
I
I
have
go
to
through
say.
my litany, someone will raise their hand.
All right.
Okay, with that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify? Anyone that received regular mail? Hello, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and address for the record, please?
Christopher Gorski, 2425 Belmont. Gorski. I am neighbors with Lisa and Mike, directly adjacent to their driveway. So if you're looking at their house, I'm right to the right.
Okay,
And I had recently applied for a permit to enclose part of my porch, which was all approved and constructed, just half of the porch. But I'm in a house that's from the 1920s, that's further out on the porch setback from the street than Mike's house. And there's a number of houses in the neighborhood that are probably 20, 23 feet, much closer to the roadway. And to mention Mike's roof, I've been in the house 20 years. I've known the prior owner who built the house. And that roof has been there for the 20 years I've been there. And it is coming apart. And quite frankly, the roof that Mike and Lisa want to build is more in character to give the house more appeal than this awning that was there. So not that his house is a disservice to the neighborhood, but it would be quite an improvement with reviewing the drawings that he has presented. Essentially, the other neighbors align with that they didn't provide any documentation, but there's nobody that we know. We're a pretty close-knit neighborhood with the neighbors that would not reject it.
so safe to say you're in favor?
I'm sorry?
You are in favor of
I
Mike's
certainly am in
application?
favor, yes. Yeah.
I just want to be clear for the record. Okay, any questions, Chris? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other residents of Haverford Township? With that, we'll close the record on this case, and a decision will be rendered either this evening. If we're unable to reach a decision this evening, a decision would be rendered at our October 21st hearing. You guys want to go discuss the issues with Bill and then come out and do a decisions on the library? All right, we'll take,
Did you close the record on the library?
I did not. I'll leave it open. I'll close it. Let me do the decision just in case a question comes up for these guys. But we should go work through the questions that some of us had. So it may take 10 or 15 more minutes. So we'll go off the record.
And we're good?
We'll resume the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, October 7th, 2021. First, case Z21-23, Jared Rayner and Kimberly McKay. I won't read the rest of the description into the record unless someone specifically requested it. Jesse, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
Jessica, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
Ed?
Yes.
Bill?
I am, yes.
So am I. Bill, would you please take that decision?
Sure. With respect to case Z21-23, I would vote to approve the requested variance, subject only to compliance with the notes of testimony and completion of the project within 1 year from the date hereof.
Jesse?
I concur.
Ed?
I agree.
Jessica?
I agree.
So do I. Application is approved 5-0 with those conditions. Case Z21-27, Michael and Lisa Niedrower, owners of 2429 Belmont. I won't read the rest of the description into the record unless someone specifically requests that I do so. Jesse, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
Jessica?
I am.
Ed?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
So am I. Jesse, would you please take that decision?
Yes. With regards to case Z21-27, I would vote to approve the application with the following conditions. Number one, there will be no utilities except for electric. Number two, the porch will not be enclosed. Number three, stormwater from the new porch roof will not adversely impact neighbors. Number four, in accordance with the notes of testimony. And number five, completed within 1 year.
Okay. Bill?
I agree.
Ed?
I concur.
Jessica?
I agree.
So do I. That application approved 5-0 with those conditions. Now, case Z21-21, Haverford Township Free Library Association. Bill, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
Ed?
Yes.
Jessica?
I am, but I would like to remind you we have not closed the record.
Oh, thank you. Jesse, are you prepared to vote?
I am.
All right, and before we do that, we had left the record open in case there was additional information that the board might request from the applicant. There are no such inquiries or requests. Therefore, I believe we already called for public comment on this case. In an abundance of caution, I'll do that again and then close the record. So with that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify, anyone present that received regular mail, any other residents of Haverford Township. With that, we'll close the record on this case. Everyone's already indicated that they're prepared to vote. Jesse, would you please take that decision?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner. With respect to case Z 21-21, I would vote to deny the requested variances.
Jessica?
Given the constraints the library has to work within, I feel this is the best solution to meet their needs, so I would vote to approve the application.
Ed?
I agree, and it's basically because of the parking issue.
You agree with what?
I agree with Jesse. Quentin,
Motion.
on the motion.
I agree with Jessica. And that leads us to Bill Rhodes.
I agree with the motion presented by Mr. Poynton.
With that, that application is denied by a 3-2 vote. Any other administrative matters?
None.
None? Okay, with that, we're adjourned.
Very good.